On December 20th, 1968, a young couple went on their first date, seeking privacy. They drove towards Herman Lake in California. The car was occupied by 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen and 17-year-old David Faraday. Unbeknownst to them, a stranger was following them. Just as they stopped near Lake Herman, a car pulled up behind them. The man in the car ordered David and Betty to get out. When they refused, the man fired at their car's rear wheel to intimidate them. Frightened, David and Betty exited the car and tried to flee, but the man shot them both. David was shot in the head, and Betty was shot 5 times in the back. The assailant then fled the scene immediately. This horrifying incident marked the beginning of the search for a notorious serial killer, the Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is one of the most terrifying serial killers of the 20th century. During the 1960s and 1970s, his horrific attacks struck fear throughout San Francisco. He would send letters to newspapers and the police, proudly detailing his murders and even sending puzzles for them to solve. After committing his first 2 murders, he remained silent for 6 months but resurfaced with another murder case on July 4, 1969. This was the day Americans celebrate Independence Day. 18-year-old Darlene Ferrin and 16-year-old Michael Mageau went out to get fireworks. They noticed a strange car following them. To evade it, they turned into the parking lot of Blue Rock Springs Park, but the stranger followed them there too. At first, he parked his car next to theirs, then reversed and left. Feeling relieved, Darlene and Michael thought the danger had passed. However, moments later, the car returned, blocking their way. The man, armed with a powerful flashlight, shone it in their faces. Initially, they thought he might be a police officer, but he suddenly opened fire on them and quickly drove off. Darlene died instantly, but Michael survived, although injured. Some children nearby called the police. Michael had seen the killer's face, which helped the police create a sketch of the suspect. The most shocking part of this incident was that, at 12:04 a.m., the Vallejo Police Department received a call from a stranger, who hung up before saying anything. This was the Zodiac Killer's first phone call to the police. About a month later, on August 1, 1969, the Zodiac Killer sent letters to 3 different newspapers, taking responsibility for the murders at Lake Herman and Blue Rock Springs Park on Independence Day. To prove his claims, he provided details known only to the police, such as the type of bullets fired, the number of shots, and the victim's clothing. Along with the letters, he sent an encoded message, demanding it be published in the newspapers the next day, or he would commit more murders. This encoded cipher was sent to intelligence agencies for decoding but remained unsolved at the time. The next day, after the cipher was published, a couple from San Francisco cracked it. It read, "It is so much fun, it is more fun killing wild game in the forest, but man is the most dangerous animal." The cipher also stated that the killer believed in the afterlife and that those he killed would become his slaves in the afterlife. After the letters to the newspapers, the Zodiac Killer remained silent for 2 months before reappearing with a new case on September 27, 1969. A college couple, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, were having a picnic by Lake Berryessa. They noticed a man approaching, wearing a black hood with the Zodiac symbol. The man drew a gun and demanded their money and car keys. Brian gave him 75 cents and the car keys, which the man returned. He then tied their hands with rope and attacked them with a knife. Believing they were dead, the Zodiac Killer walked back to the car and wrote a message on the car door, detailing the time, location, and weapon used. A nearby fisherman found the injured couple, and they were taken to the hospital. Unfortunately, Cecilia succumbed to her injuries, but Brian survived and provided the police with detailed information about the attack. That evening, at 7:40 p.m., the Zodiac Killer called the police to report the crime. The police identified a pattern in the Zodiac Killer's actions. He targeted young couples, attacked on weekends or near holidays, struck at night or twilight, proudly taunted authorities, committed murders at known dating spots, mostly attacked in or near cars, and often chose locations near water. These patterns suggested that the Zodiac Killer was possibly disillusioned with love or harbored a specific hatred towards women. As in 2 out of the last 3 attacks, the male victim survived. However, the police were unaware that the Zodiac Killer's next target would break this pattern. Just 2 weeks after the previous murder, on October 11, 1969, the Zodiac Killer hailed a cab driven by Paul Stine at 9:30 p.m. and directed him to Maple Street in Presidio Heights. Upon reaching the destination, the killer waited for the cab to stop and then shot Paul Stine at point-blank range. He then moved to the front passenger seat, cut a piece of Paul's shirt, and left. During the incident, 2 children witnessed the crime from the second floor of a nearby building and immediately informed the police. The police rushed to Maple Street and encountered the Zodiac Killer walking away. However, as they were looking for a black man based on earlier descriptions, they did not suspect the white man they encountered. The Zodiac Killer misled the police by pointing in a different direction, and they continued their search elsewhere. Had they stopped to check him, they would have noticed the bloodstains on his jacket. Once again, the Zodiac Killer managed to escape. However, the police found his fingerprints in Paul Stine's cab. A few days later, the Zodiac Killer sent letters to newspapers, recounting the entire murder and including a piece of Paul Stine's shirt as proof. He also threatened to attack a school bus, causing widespread fear and prompting the police to escort school buses for weeks. Although no attack occurred, the children's descriptions helped create a new sketch of the Zodiac Killer. 10 days after killing the cab driver, on October 22, 1969, the Zodiac Killer called the Oakland Police Department, claiming he wanted to speak with Melvin Belli, a well-known lawyer, on a TV show. The show on Channel 7 started earlier than scheduled. The Zodiac Killer made several calls but hung up before saying anything. In the next call, he identified himself as Sam. Over the course of the show, he made 35 calls, 12 of which were aired, answering questions from the lawyer with vague responses. Later, it was revealed that the calls were made by a mental patient from Napa State Hospital, not the real Zodiac Killer. Weeks after the TV show drama, newspapers received more letters from the Zodiac Killer, including an encoded cipher that he wanted published. Unlike the previous cipher, which was cracked in a day, this one remained unsolved for 50 years. In 2020, 3 codebreakers using computer software finally decoded it, revealing that the caller on the TV show was not the Zodiac Killer. The letters accompanying the cipher provided a crucial clue. The Zodiac Killer claimed to have a bomb in his basement. This indicated that he lived in a house with a basement, which was uncommon in the Bay Area, suggesting he might not reside there. The police believed the Zodiac Killer made a mistake by revealing this detail. 5 months later, on March 22, 1970, the Zodiac Killer attempted to kidnap Kathleen Johns on Highway 132. She managed to escape and later identified the Zodiac Killer from a sketch. Over the next 4 years, the Zodiac Killer continued sending letters and ciphers, sometimes detailing murders, other times reviewing movies. In one letter, he provided the location of a bomb, but no bomb was found, nor did any explosion occur. His last letter, received on January 30, 1974, claimed a murder score of Me37, SFPD-0, implying he had killed 37 people while the San Francisco Police Department had 0. However, the police believed he exaggerated the number, as only 5 murders matched his modus operandi. After extensive research, law enforcement agencies like the CIA concluded that the Zodiac Killer possessed military-grade knowledge. Footprints found at crime scenes matched military-style wing walker shoes. Additionally, his expertise in cryptology and ciphers suggested military training. The Zodiac Killer's reign of terror had gripped America, attracting widespread attention. Several individuals falsely claimed to be the Zodiac Killer for notoriety, complicating the search for the real killer. Initially, the police suspected Arthur Lee Allen, who had a military background and possessed a watch with the Zodiac symbol. However, his handwriting and fingerprints did not match the Zodiac's. Allen died in 1992, after years of police scrutiny. Another suspect was Richard Gaikowski, who resembled the Zodiac sketch, but his handwriting did not match either. Thank you for watching Zenith. Stay tuned for more exciting videos.